My name is Rocio Vanera from Latinas Tech, and today the first Cafecito ever, sharing a very nice cup of coffee with the beautiful and amazing advocate and champion of Latinas Tech, Beatriz Acevedo. Beatriz, how are you?
Amiga, thank you so much for having me here. Always great to have a good chat with you. So very happy to have this opportunity to be here today. I'm great. I'm excited for our cafecito.
Yeah. This is so great. So this is going to be a super fun and intimate and casual chat. I want people to know what I know from you. I mean, amiga, I admire you so much. You've done so much. And it's for people that know you or like even from afar, they already know all the amazing things you've achieved. But for everybody that doesn't know you personally, could you, first off, let me give an introduction of Beatriz before she introduces Suma. But Beatriz has been an outstanding Latina. She's been whenever you get together with anybody that cares about Latinos in the U.S., everybody knows Beatriz. So she's been championing our community, and she has been doing amazing things from winning an Emmy award at a very early age, being one of the few Latinas in media, and now starting Suma. So Beatriz, now I'm gonna let you tell us about you, what you've been doing, and most especially tell us about Suma.
Yes, of course. Well, listen, thank you for that very loving and generous introduction, amiga. You know, the love and the respect is mutual. I'm so excited from the first time we were connected because just like you, sometimes you just get to see so few, Latinas like you there in the daily hustle. And of course, I knew of you and of Latinas in Tech. So I still remember the first meeting we had on our Zoom, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool that I get to meet her. And now that, we've gotten to know each other better and become friends. But so I'm an immigrant girl. You're right. I'm originally from Mexico, like you. And I came to the US. Well, I'm a border girl. So really, I always had one foot in one country and the other foot in the other country. So I've been coming, I guess, all the time, but permanently moved north of the border in my 20s. After college, I went to college in San Diego, but I still lived in Tijuana. So it was kind of strange, right? I spent the night in Mexico, but then I would spend my days in the US, just doing that, crossing the border. So I moved permanently to the US when I was in my early 20s. I didn't know anything about tech or raising capital or anything because I've just been in media, and on the media side, on the content side. So obviously there's tech in media, but it didn't touch what I did work-wise. And then, I was very frustrated with looking at the stats like we all do today and seeing how Latinos and particularly Latinas had so few opportunities in Hollywood. And for me, I had that privilege to win some Emmys early on in my career. And I remember this filmmaker at the time, Robert Rodriguez, telling me, oh, you should go to the US because even if you're not good, they love awards. So I was like, okay. So I moved to the US with my 3 Emmys and my MTV award. And I'm like, okay, if they love awards, pues here I go. And it was easy for me to find work and to start producing shows, which is what I had done for all my career in Mexico. But I would see that there were very few Latinos. Like today, when you think of Latinas in tech, or you think of Latinas in the boardroom, or you think in Latinas raising capital, those numbers have not changed. We're never break away from that 1% if we're lucky.
And that's across the board, right? We were talking about
all of them.
It is in media, in tech, everywhere. We're not even a 1% sometimes.
No. So I was like, well, how can I just do it? You're younger. I think you're more optimistic. So at the time, this is 10 years ago, I thought, no, you know what? Digital is now the thing. And, it's when everybody started you could be a creator with your phone, right? So I would say, oh my gosh, this is amazing. If you have a phone, now you have an opportunity. Because before we were all waiting for an opportunity, and people who are very talented, nobody would validate their work. And now it's like, oh my God, look at this, new economy of YouTubers. That's where a ton of Latino celebs started now and building, but they didn't know how to build their businesses. They didn't know how to charge to brands. They were good personalities. So I thought, okay, well, in this digital creator economy, maybe I can build a company that can aggregate all these creators, and we can make sure that brands know about them so they can support them financially, but also that we can be pitching them to networks and studios. So hopefully, and some of them did, now are on TV or making movies, but it wasn't everybody. And the numbers never changed, right? So I was proud of the fact that we were able to build this really, really big ecosystem and almost like a playground and incubation for all this incredible next generation of talent, but also build a brand that stood for something in our community, our youth in our community, especially the US born. I'm not US born, but my kids are, and they're that demographic of, getting ready to go to college. They feel like, do we really belong here, right? Like, oh my gosh, nobody really speaks to us. Well, first of all, they consume everything in English, but they don't see themselves very represented. So anyway, that was my first experience with a tech media company, because obviously it was
which is Mitú.
Which is Mitú.
Yeah, so we missed an important part. She founded Mitú.
Yes,
okay,
yes, which is Mitú. But I've told you this story, and I also like to tell the story for all Latinas or anybody else, because people only see your Instagram or your LinkedIn and they're like, oh my God, this person's amazing. You're killing it, you're crushing it, you're unbelievable. But the reality is we should all do a better job also posting the moments that are hard. And I am guilty of also just putting we did this amazing thing. But when I started, I had never raised capital, amiga. I didn't even know what venture was, right? So I was like, venture capital. I had no idea. I was lucky that there was this guy who used to run Fox, not Fox News, but whoever watches Fox News is all good. But it was Fox Entertainment. And his name's Peter Chernin. And he decided when he left the network, he launched a venture fund. So he went, straight to become a VC. And because I knew him from my entertainment days, somebody said, oh, if you're going to launch this digital media company, you're going to need a lot of capital. And, you now have thousands of creators. You got to scale this. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't know what venture capital was. I had no idea how to raise capital. I mean, I knew this guy, so I was grateful for that connection. And I remember going to him and he was like, so this is very good. Are you raising your Series A? And I was like, mind you, I had to Google venture. Okay. So when he said Series A, I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Because I thought, what could come before A, right? Like the first letter in the alphabet. And of course, there's a lot that comes before A, friends and family and your pre-seed and your seed and your Series A. So a lot of learning along the way in the, in the whole Me Too experience where we, raised up to a Series D. So you can imagine it was a BCD. And then sold the company. But it happened for me that I was like, oh my gosh, the first Latina raising this amount of capital. Not anymore. Obviously, Jessica Alba has raised so much more and taken her company public. But at the time, it was like unheard of. And from somebody who is an immigrant, has no idea what she's doing. I was just like, collecting checks and being grateful, but not knowing like you have to do your due diligence on how you raise capital. Not all money is the same. So much to learn from there, right? And so after a good run of 7 years, I just thought I am exhausted. It was a great experience, but I was very exhausted. My kids were about to start high school. I was turning 50. I'm definitely not a young founder. And I just thought I really want to, from now on, devote myself to philanthropy. My family has a foundation. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a mom. I'm going to do philanthropy. And maybe if I'm lucky, some of these days I can go and do yoga at noon at the beach like these white ladies in my neighborhood. That never happened, amiga. I never went to the yoga. I stayed home for a little bit, but then the pandemic hit. And this is going to your question of Suma now. So the pandemic hit and I was like, oh my gosh, we all read the news. You're right. We were the ones who were the most affected with deaths, but also with economic hardship.
So true.
It was always so heartbreaking for me to see that we spent so much money as a community. And I know we're proud of that because we're like, oh my gosh, pay attention to Latinos. We are critical for the economy. We spend so much, we consume so much. And that's great for the American economy. But we're like, oh my gosh, but how much do we have in savings? How much do we have in investments, right? Like you and I had to talk about this all the time. And it was the Latinos and Black families who had the least amount of savings or of investing. So in a crisis, like the one we just had for several years, we have nothing to fall back on. And so that's how the idea of Suma really started. but I'm going to stop there because I've been, I can take a half an hour of my passion.
No,
everything.
You're reading my mind on questions, and it's like there are two things that you mentioned that resonated so much, and I want to emphasize. If we would go back to, I didn't even know what a Series A was in the alphabet. Is the first one. That this is a learning moment for a lot of us women, Latinas. Like many times we step back because we might not know absolutely everything. And the fact you exemplified what we should be doing. Sometimes we have to fake it until we make it, because that's how other demographics play the game, right? Like, I don't know it, but tonight I'll Google it and now go for it. But what you will see is that person that is confident and knows what she's doing. Learning moment. The other thing you mentioned now, what was leading in Suma is how, yes, the Latinx community got dramatically hit by COVID. We do not know about finance as other people know. Remember, we're playing a game that is foreign to us many times. Even if we were born here, our culture, like I just had a meeting with somebody that at our age, she just opened a savings account last year. Because some people, it's just first generation, second generation, like they are used to keeping the money at the house. So it's not that streamlined to think that everybody sees finance the same way. No. So tell me more about Suma. What are you doing for the community with Suma?
Yeah, no, I mean, going exactly to your point, amiga, of and I have one other teaching moment, but for later, because you already said two, but I have my favorite third one that we'll save for the end. But just going to your point of people who have money in their, under the colchón, like we say, right? Or
under the colchón. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you're not smart or college educated or whatever. My own father, who was an incredible attorney, college educated, Don Conrado, people would call him, big philanthropist. When he passed away, we found money in every single one of his suit jackets, because he always dressed the part of an attorney. He was old school. My kids would always tell him, Abu, why do you dress every day like you're gonna get married? He was always super dapper with his corbata and but in the pockets, not so much money, but $1,000, right? And I'm like, what was he doing in each jacket, keeping all this cash? But if you go back to that trauma, that money trauma that we have in our community. I remember when I was 8 years old, when there was a massive devaluation in Mexico. And as I told you, I'm a border girl, so I lived in the border. So even though my family charged in pesos, right? My dad was an attorney who charges client in pesos. You have to pay everything in dollars at the border. Todo es en dólares. The rent and the food, everything's in dollars. And I remember that back in the day, the Mexican government would let you have a bank account in US dollars, particularly for people in the border. So all the Mexican banks, they were like, you want el dinero en pesos or en dollars? Okay, so obviously my parents in the border, they're like dollars. So the day of that devaluation, I remember my mom saying, my dad, thank God our money's in US dollars. And that moment, almost like the president heard her, because it was we didn't have Twitter, so the news didn't travel on Twitter. It was like, okay, we got to all sit and watch what the president's going to say. And then he immediately was like, and there's no more dollars in the country. So they had wiped out the country. I think you remember, from all the dollars, everybody who knew that this was coming had pulled out their money out. Clearly, nobody told my parents. And that was it, right? And I have so many other stories. I mean, Jacqueline Garcel and I from the Latino Community Foundation that we were just talking where this beautiful mug comes from. She had the same story in Dominican Republic with her parents, right? It's like they work so hard, they lose it all. So when we say, why do people have the money under the colchón? Why do people keep it in their freezer? Because we have to understand that they've been through that. People in Argentina, people in Venezuela could never pull out the money again from their banks. So that distrust is real. So at Suma, what we wanted to do is first build a community of like-minded people that knew that we are all in the same boat, that there is no shame in not understanding what a 401k is, for example. We actually have a joke. We call it 401k.
I love it.
What is that? And then when you see that there's thousands of people like you that are also college educated and successful, whatever, but they're like, oh my gosh, thank God you don't know, because I don't know. And I got to kind of fake it at work when they ask me about my 401k. But I feel safe here. I feel in community. I can ask my questions. everything that we're doing is really to help our community build wealth, right? We have a big goal to help our community close the wealth gap. I don't know if I'm going to be able to really do it in my lifetime because we are at 20 cents to the dollar on the wealth gap. And it's going to take a lot of us, and it's going to take a lot of Sumas to really, push forward to help our community do that. But we want to start now, and we very intentionally pick youth. Most people ask me like, oh, but why are you not focused on the older Latinos? Like, they also need help. I'm like, absolutely. They need help and they will get the help. But we know that the young Latinos in this country are those Sherpas, those navigators, those influencers in their families and communities. And they are the ones sort of influencing the decisions and helping their older family members. So by educating them, empowering them, giving them the tools, the products that they need, we know that they will do the same with their older family. And we see it now. Everybody that we have in the average of how many financial accounts our consumers manage for their family members is 3. So imagine, you're a 20-year-old kid, you don't understand how to manage your own finances, but you are tasked with doing it for 3 more family members. So we're like, okay, so by 1 getting all this info, 3 more will eventually get it. So that's why we're very focused on youth. It's also the demo that's going into college. That's when they start to get into so much credit card debt, besides student debt, credit card debt. They're offering you here. They don't really understand what the interest rate is, how that's going to pile up. Don't just pay the minimum. So what we're
and that's absolutely foreign to people from Latin America because they are not used to owing.
No, and here everything is buy now, pay later. That's like just getting you in so much debt, right? So what we wanted to do was, amiga, there's 30,000 fintech companies. You would be like, B, is there really nothing good enough for Latinos, old or young? There is, but they haven't built the trust in our community. People are like, I don't know who to trust, right? Do I trust Acorns or Robinhood? Do I trust this bank or this other bank? Like, you tell me, Suma, you help me. So we're like, okay, we wanted to make sure that, our North Star is to really help our community build wealth. So if anybody offers us, oh, we'll pay you all this money if you send us your 750,000 users to this credit card that's at a high interest rate, we're like, no, we're never going to do anything that goes against us helping our community build wealth. So we started with the content. Oh yeah, go ahead, Asu.
No, sorry. Well, I don't want to cut you off, but maybe in the way you can tell us what is Suma Wealth offering? What resources do they have to educate and help the community?
Yes. So how we started was with the content, right? So we wanted to first give the information. Like, it's impossible for us to tell somebody, oh, start investing if they don't understand why. Why would I invest? Isn't that too dangerous? Isn't that for rich people? So you have to start with the education into saying, first of all, no, it's not for rich people. Second, now you can start investing with $5. Third, there's some magical thing called compound interest, which is free money over time. And all of that information our community tends to not have, most people not have. I didn't have it. So we started with that, with all the content. So all the content is always free at Suma, whether it's on our website, on our social feeds, and our Sumaversity. So if you go to our website, you find there on the tab all the places you can click. And this is all free. All the education is free through our nonprofit. And you can also get certification. So you can go through boot camps. We have a HEFA boot camp that we should have done with you guys, but maybe we can do a HEFA boot camp for tech, because ours was more like, how you start a company in general. But I would love to do a collaboration with you guys. So we do it in a really fun way, funny way, with animated videos, but all very, very useful. We have the validation behind all our boot camps from Arizona State University. So you can get a certificate, like a real certificate and credit, if you complete these boot camps, if you want it. If not, we'll give you a cool estampita called on the blockchain for proof of learning. So those are the free resources that we have, which are all education. And then we have a freemium version of our app that coaches you on your phone with AI-enabled insights that's constantly telling you, like, it sounds like your abuelita, like the voice of your abuelita. Hay comida en la casa.
But it's AI.
But it's AI, exactly, which is so exciting because it knows, okay, you're off your limit of food and dining. Hay comida en la casa, or tomorrow, hazte el cafecito at home, here's a recipe. So It's very emotional. It's very familiar, something that other apps really don't have. There's so many good ones, but they're very dry. They're very much like overdraft, so-and-so, alert, no sé qué, subscription. Here we're like loving, adoring.
I love
so
it.
it's very, very different. So I think that what makes the community feel super, super comfortable.
This is amazing, Bea, and your team. I mean, this product is really what our community needs, and we are on our way to create generational wealth. A lot of Latinos and Latinas are now, for what I know in tech, creating huge changes inside their tech companies and outside. So it is great to educate this. Now, I want to ask you, from the standpoint of a founder of a fintech company, how is the fintech industry playing for a Latina? How do you feel as a Latina, as a founder, playing and navigating in the fintech industry?
Well, obviously, I think that, and this comes from one of my co-founders who is a dear friend who has been in finance all his life. And when he brought the idea to me of Suma, I was like, no, I'm a marketing girl. Fintech is not for me, because I never saw anybody in fintech, nor do I know anything about fintech. But the thing that sold me, that he convinced me on, he was like, listen, we might be represented in numbers. I know you are advocating tremendously for capital for Latinas. You're advocating for representation in Hollywood because what you see matters and perception is reality. But until we have economic power, we will not have power in this country. And that just really stuck in my head. I was like, oh my God, and his name's Javier Gutierrez. So I was like, Javier is so right. Until we have economic power, we're going to have no power in this country. So obviously I thought, even if I'm one of the few, there's more. I mean, the data says that out of 30,000 companies, there's 0.03% that are Latina-led, amigo. So that number is worse than the 1% that we usually hear. 0.03%. So there's definitely not a lot. There are a handful of Latinas doing this. Some are not necessarily just for Latinas or Latinos, but for general market. Some are on like student debt or how you invest and things like this. But for me, it's amazing to be able to, lead this company that has a dual mission of what they call a double bottom line, doing good in the world, but also obviously having a profitable business for my investors. Now, I have to tell you, my investors are Latinas. The majority of my investors are Latinas. That's also something.
Chingona Ventures, right? That's one.
Chingona Ventures is one of them. But I have so many more. Nora May Cadena, Carmen Palafox. I mean, there's like a list, right, of incredible Latinas and Latinos and amazing female allies from other demographics. But the majority are Latina. So this is a company that is primarily Latina-owned, right, and Latina-led. So that gives me so much pride to be able to be doing that, and now recently joining forces with also other companies that are
don't. I need my
I know you're waiting for that question. I'm gonna stop there.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna take a sip of our coffee.
She believed she could, so she did. So my question is, you just announced the acquisition of a new company. Like, we're talking about tech companies, fintech companies, and then there's a Latina that thinks I can, so I will. So you went shopping, and not just shopping whatever thing. You just acquire an amazing company led by another amazing Latina.
You were with me when that happened, remember?
Yeah.
You were like, what? So you just went shopping? And I was like so excited. Well, the thing that made me more, first of all, big learning curve again, right? Like that time when I was raising capital, what's the Series A? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know, M&A was definitely not in my vocabulary as like a border girl growing up, amiga, by any means. And so this was an incredible opportunity. Well, first of all, to join forces with another fearless Latina. Her name is Daniela Corrente. She's incredible. She's built this amazing technology platform called Real that really has the goal to not get you into debt. So instead of, buy now, pay later, that just gets us deeper into debt, primarily Black and Latina women, she wanted to show you the power of your own money. So saving to then buy later, right? So her platform was all about don't get into debt, but with little by little, $5 a day, in X amount of months, you can get to this goal, and it's debt free, right? And there's a lot of power in that. So we decided to join forces, and yeah, I mean, it was a big learning experience. I mean, just even like learning the lingo. What does a due diligence look like when, you know, you're acquiring a company? How do you evaluate the tech? How do you evaluate the team? I mean, obviously Daniela is the most incredible. We're honored to have her also on our team because she believes a lot in the mission. But that was an amazing experience. So now we get to like really break barriers. And, you know, when we look at our picture even, and we're like, oh my God, we are like 3 Latinas, and we call it in the C-suite, but like CSI, but C-suite. But we also
a Fintech company.
Exactly. But we also just brought in, a girl to lead our product, who was at Nubank, which, as you know, is like a big unicorn bank in Latin America. Before she was doing product at Mercado Libre, which is like the Amazon of Latin America, right? And she's another Latina. She's a Colombiana, right? So Daniela is a Venezolana. Our now head of product is a Colombiana. Mary and I Mexican. One immigrant, one first gen. Amazing, you know?
Jefas. The more jefas we have, the more jefas they bring, and the more visible we are.
I know.
Beatriz, thank you so much for doing this. Like, not this cafecito, thank you for the cafecito, but thank you for starting Suma, starting Mitú, and getting our name of Women Latina out there. And you with Daniela, two amazing super heroines are building our queendom. And this is like, thank you. And from Latinas in Tech and our community, we wish you all, we will be watching. You are going to do so well, and we wish you the best. We will be there watching, and actually go to Suma. What's the website? Suma Wealth.
SumaWealth.com. SumaWealth.com.
So go there, check it out. This is from Latinas for Latinas and Latinos. And we support each other. We do business with each other. That's a good motto that I once heard, and we really need to embody that. Beatriz, we're running out of time. I could speak with you endless time, but I want people to know more. Go to your website, come to Latinos in Tech. You will, if you go to any event that is about Latinos and business, you will see that.
And you'll see Rocio, and probably we'll be sitting at the same table as we usually do. So no, but thank you so much. I adore I love you. I love your organization. I love so many people that I've met through Latinas in Tech. I feel the love and the support of the community thanks to you. Thank you for amplifying our news. Thank you for existing. And I'm just so happy that we are friends, and that, you know, we are that example of Latinas supporting each other and cheering on for each other.
Sí se puede.
Sí, eso, sí se puede. Bueno, amiga.
Thank you so much, Beatriz.
Thank you so much.
Good to talk to you.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye-bye.